butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Just take a look. It's in a book. Reading Rainbow. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. Special guest, Tim Davis. This is the podcast where all three of us went and saw a movie at our local Regal Cinema Theater. And now we're going to talk about it in Matt's Honda Pilot, in the parking structure next to the movie theater. And we're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you bring a family? Should you bring a date? Should you go by yourself? Should you snack or should you hold off? All these questions we'll try to touch on. But you know, sometimes we don't, and we're sorry for that. But a lot of times we do, and you're welcome. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. Yes, we're here. We watched a movie, and now we get to talk about it. We love doing this, and that's why we have a podcast, so that you can listen to us do this. Yes, we're good like that. So we saw a movie tonight called American Fiction. This movie is one of 10 movies nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. So
For 2023.
For 2023, yes. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. But first, Tim, tell us who is in this movie.
Well, this has quite the ensemble cast. It's led by Jeffrey Wright, who's one of those actors who's been in a lot of things, very recognizable. I'd say, I guess if you're going more famous roles, he's Felix Leiter in the James Bond movies that Daniel Craig was in. He was also in the second Hunger Games movie as one of the people stuck on the island. He's been around a long time though. He was also on the HBO series Westworld, I believe.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of voice work as well. He's definitely the lead in this. And then we've got Tracee Ellis Ross is in this as the character's sister. She's mostly been on television shows over the years. The mom on Blackish. John Ortiz, who's a character actor, plays his publisher. And he's been most notably the bad guy in the Fast and the Furious movies a couple times, and he's bounced around in a lot of other stuff. I'd say as far as any other recognizable names, Sterling K. Brown is his brother in this. He's mostly known for, I guess you would say, he was on
This Is Us.
This Is Us, right? Yeah. Yep, and he's been in a bunch of movies as well. And then Adam Brody shows up at one point. He used to be on the OC back in the day, and he also was in the Shazam movies. And Issa Rae from Barbie, she was the President Barbie, shows up as a rival author in this movie. And then the only other one, I don't know if you caught this one, Todd, Leslie Uggams plays his mother in this movie, and she is Blind Al in the Deadpool movie.
I was like, who is that?
Yes, the old lady that lives with Deadpool.
Gotcha.
I'm sure she's been around a lot. She's been around a long time, but that's her more recent work that people have probably recognized her from. And but I want to say she goes all the way back to being in Roots. So she's been around a long time. And I would say that's it for the recognizable people, although I'm sure I'm missing a couple. But, Matt?
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's this movie about? Well, this movie follows the character whose name is Thelonious Ellison, who everyone calls Monk. And he is an author who's down on his luck. He writes books, but they don't sell, and he is trying to confront why that might be. And so throughout the movie, we start to see that he's under a lot of pressure with his family. His mother is sick. His sister dies pretty early on in the movie. But
family strife.
Yeah, so there's like this kind of monetary pressure, like who's going to take care of his mom, and where's the money going to come from, and then he starts to see that maybe he's writing the wrong type of book to make money, and kind of he doesn't really want to sell his soul and write a book that may make money for being a quote-unquote black novel. And when I say that, I'm describing like a book that is written from a stereotypical black perspective. Like, yeah.
Big point in the movie.
Yeah, that's one of the main key points. So he writes this book that's about, stereotypical what black culture is described as often in this country, and he writes it under a pseudonym and doesn't really mean for it to be. He writes it kind of as a parody of that style, and it ends up being published and eaten up, and movie deals come in, and it's all under this pseudonym that he has. And so there's the money, and that comes, but with that comes secrets and the ability of the character to hold those secrets and not share them, which we have learned the formula of movies. When you hold on to secrets and don't share them, bad things can happen. So that's the basic premise of the movie, and then it's kind of the unwinding of that secret and how that happens, and what is the eventual outcome. That's the plot of the movie. Mm-hmm. What the movie is really about, there's a lot of deeper themes, but that is for not the summary segment, that is for the talk about it segment. So, Todd, how did you feel about this as an American fiction?
Well, I enjoyed this movie. I mean, just talking about the movie itself and not even like the deeper points of the movie, I thought it was an incredibly well-written movie. Mm-hmm. And I thought something I really liked is that I thought scenes lingered, but I wasn't mad that they were lingering. Like, right. They were hanging around. Sometimes there'd be not much stuff going on, but it almost was used as a device to help you like feel like you might be part of this family. Like, I think the longer scenes where it was just a lot of people reacting to each other, not even much is being said, but you could see in body language and mm-hmm. size, and you're taken into this family that, like, when you first hear about them, you're like, oh, what a successful family and stuff like that. And then through the movie, you find out it's more and more kind of, stuff swept under the rug and stuff like that. And so you're taking this journey with Monk, who's learning more about his family than he ever knew. And I just really felt like the long shots really helped convey that message, which I was all about. Typically, I'm very much of, if you got nothing going on a scene, let's wrap it up and move to something else. But I think for this movie, that all kind of really worked. I thought Jeffrey Wright did such a great job. Like, I mean, I think everyone did a really good job, but I felt like he really, like, kind of took this supposed dual identity that he creates and stuff like that, and it has to do some interviews, it has to do some things, and it just was, like, I thought he really did well. I thought he carried it, honestly. But everyone, I mean, there wasn't a weak link, I don't think, in this movie. There were weaker characters, but I thought everyone did their job really well. I can definitely understand why this movie's nominated. Yeah. Not just on its own merit of being a really good movie, but also because of the subject matter. Like, you kind of, and that even plays into the movie too. Yes, like, I mean, like, it's a very, I know what I wrote and directed. I mean, the writer was the director and stuff like that. I mean, like, and it's off of a book, Erasure.
Yeah, based on a book. Yeah.
So, but it's very in on itself, and it's just funny because it like right now the Academy and stuff like that is doing exactly what the the movie makes fun of, and I find that to be just hilarious. But I also think this movie's like, I think we see a lot of movies, and there are plenty of movies that get nominated for Best Picture, and we're like, no, thank you. This was a dumb pick and stuff like that.
No, not this one.
And hopefully, as we review more of the movies that were nominated, for Best Pictures, at least some of the ones that we haven't seen,
Yeah.
will fill in our thoughts of like, should this have been nominated, should it not have been nominated. I think off of its own merits and the tight writing and the great acting, this movie deserves to be nominated. Whether it'll win, I don't know. But, I mean, I'd have to look at the list again. I might be rooting for it more than almost anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just because I thought it was a really solid, good movie. Yeah, so it's going to get a pretty high rating to me. Probably not the highest. There were times where I felt like, if there are drawbacks to the movies, there's times where I felt like I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the family. Like, you were getting some stuff, but I always felt like I wanted more. And they do a very kind of like stylistic almost ending, almost ambiguous at times. And I thought it worked and I thought it was great. But I could see that playing with people's emotions a little bit. I'm fine with it, but maybe in a couple of days, the more I think about it, I'll be like, oh, I wish I had gotten more or anything like that. But I'm leaving today very satisfied from this movie, and I strongly suggest you go see it. So, do I think this will transfer well to TV or anything like that? Sure, because this isn't a movie where it's got special effects and there's no like real action or anything going on like that. Like, I mean, you could easily wait for streaming for this movie, but I would encourage you to go see it in theaters because I think it's that good, and you should. So, Tim?
Yeah, Todd, I think I'm pretty much on the same page with you. I thought, like you said, extremely well written. These felt like people. Like, you know what I mean? Like how some movies, like, give you an idea of people, or like you said, stereotypes. And I felt like all these characters felt like real human beings with real emotions. And how complicated family can be. And how it doesn't matter where you're from, what race you are, what your background is like everybody has family, everybody has their ups and downs with family, and this movie definitely tells that story, and it's very relatable. And yet it also, I thought it balanced different genres really well, because like you said, there's some satire there with the way that they're approaching how the book companies and the movie companies are about, like, hey, we need this book that's more black because we have to be more inclusive and we have to be more diverse and all that stuff. And it does feel like pandering, and it's brought up a lot in the movie by the black characters, and how like this stuff is like beneath them, but yet it sells. And this movie had a lot to say, but it wasn't preaching either. It was just kind of letting things be there and let you think about it and see the irony and see the problems with it, but also, it was not just about that. Like, I think the trailers kind of sold that it was only about that, but I think it's really more of a family drama with that stuff in there. And I think that made it even stronger a movie, because it was a kind of silly situation, you could say, wrapped around real things going on. And that's what grounded it, from being too much of a parody, or like the scenes where, Jeffrey Wright had to slip into his character pseudonym that he made, which is supposed to be this hardened, tough guy, and the accent he has to put on, and the style of how he moved, and it was great, because it was hilarious, and it was like, and you could see he almost, the disdain on his face of having to play this role, and it was so well done. It almost made you feel like it was Jeffrey Wright in there too, and I thought that was an extra part of his acting, and it was just, the whole thing worked, I think, like you said, and it's just everybody brought their parts. But Jeffrey Wright definitely, I think, should be up for Best Actor if he's not already. I think he is, and he's always been one of my favorite actors in general. But I really think this is like if you're gonna say this is why I like him, this is a great movie to see his talent shine. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I really don't have anything to negatively talk about this movie. Like you said, I think I like you said, scenes breathed, and like were left to let you feel the emotions, or at least observe, like he was. Like you said, he had been kind of distant from this family, so we were watching how the family actually is, and he's learning that too, and we're learning it with him. It's a great movie. I agree. It doesn't need the theater experience, like you said, but it's a great movie, and you should support great movies. That's why we do this. Matt?
Well, I thought that I agree with you guys that the movie was well written and the pacing was right on. I really liked the first part of this movie, and I really liked what their message was when they were trying to give a message about race in America and how sometimes, maybe a lot of times, we can pursue things that are about other races, not just black people, but other races too, that are more, we want to consume things as, as white people, maybe more that are stereotypical about the race of person that's highlighted. And I thought that they did that in a thoughtful way, and a way that really made you kind of think about diversity and I, obviously I have a great belief in that we need to have diversity in our world and in our culture. But there is a way to do that, and there's a way not to do that. And this movie kind of tried to define and highlight the ways that diversity can be handled that maybe isn't the best, maybe isn't the purest of heart, so to speak, but is more of a pandering or a just trying to check a box. So I think the movie does a good job of handling that and really highlighting it in a way that's digestible. So kudos to them for that. I thought there was plenty of nice emotional moments in this movie. Tim, I think you said family drama, and yeah, it felt like that, and I did enjoy getting to know this family and getting to watch the relationships in the movie. I think they're handled very well. What I really didn't like was the ending. I thought that they really could have kept the tone of the movie without doing what they did.
It worked for me, but I get it.
Yeah, well, they made some choices, and they decided that they weren't going to give a kind of a concrete ending to the movie. Okay.
And he even said that at one point.
Yes, but really took me out of the movie, really kind of put a sour taste in my mouth at the end of the movie as I was leaving. I wanted to have the good conclusion. I wanted to know what happened, and I wanted it to be definitive, not, well, here's a few things that could have happened.
Right. I mean, it is hard to build a 2-hour movie around something that you're waiting to come to a resolution and then not really offer the resolution. That's
right.
That's hard.
And clearly,
I liked what they did, but I also
choice.
agree with you, Matt. I was my completist side of me goes, we could have just had something. You're built to this moment of, the secret's going to come out or whatever, and it's all, and then you're like, okay, well, this is what the entire movie has built to. Sure, right. There's a ton of underlying themes, and there's a ton of stuff that you walk away from the movie, and you're like, wow, I should think about that. I should think about, how I support other cultures, or what is my responsibility in this world, or whatever. You have all these deeper themes. But at the same time, it's still a movie. You are there for the movie, and if you're gonna do something weird about the ending and not give almost a straightforward and still don't know the true conclusion of when the secret came out, that's rough because you led to that part for the entire movie. Now, you can create some artsy way of why you didn't want to tell it that way, or, shouldn't, the bigger points were in the movie, not the ending or whatever. But at the same time, you are still making a movie, and movies traditionally have beginning, middle, and end. Especially if you're going to build to a crescendo, to not show that off is an interesting choice.
Yeah.
And
clearly deliberate.
And it didn't bother me as much, but like I said, I could be thinking about this for the next couple of days, and after I've had time to really think about it, like, I think that's going to be one of the things that if I were to lower my score in a couple of days from what it is now, it's going to be because of that.
Yeah, and I think, it didn't... and I'm not saying that I needed to have a happy ending or, like, a nice resolution to anything, but I would have liked a resolution.
Correct.
And I would have liked, like, I think there could have been artful ways to do that, and ways that kind of hit you in unexpected ways and brought, a bit more emotion into play at the end to tie things up. So for me, I enjoyed the movie. I thought that the first 85% of it or 90% of it was very good. And so I can't say don't see this movie, but I can say if you like to have things wrapped up, boy, this movie's going to be a struggle, like it is for me. And so it's not going to be, I don't know. There's always, like, when we talk about Best Picture stuff, there's always kind of some duds and some clunkers in there. So I wouldn't say that this movie is outside of the realm of, and I'm not saying it's a dud or a clunker either. No. But I would say that it could still be on the list, and I just didn't care for it.
Almost any movie can make the nominee list.
Right. So that's me. I would say you could watch this movie, just know that the ending may be disappointing to you.
Yeah. It worked for Clue. Who knows if it'll really pan out for this movie.
Clue is amazing. Different genre.
So, well, there you have it. Getting down to the nitty gritty. How many... How many... let's just do something simple. How many nighttime swims will you give this movie?
Nighttime swims. Well,
hold on. Zero being
I'm
the
jumping
worst,
right into it.
And then 5 being the best, because that's 5 nighttime swims. That's almost a full week.
Yes.
That's a work week of swims right there.
There you go.
That's true.
By the way, before we go any further, my original one was going to be how many F words do you give this movie?
Yeah.
But I was entering a conundrum. I was like, do I say F word or do I say the actual word? And
I think F word could work.
We just break that line that we've never really broken on this podcast.
We never have. But it's okay, Todd. I feel like we can say fuck.
Ooh, now the line's broken.
It's all right.
Oh, fuck, Matt. You just broke the line.
I did. Well,
we're going to go with nighttime swim.
I'm gonna give this...
Well, we know what it really means.
Yes. I'm gonna go with 3 nighttime swims out of 5. I'm going to say overall I enjoyed this movie. Like I said, it left me with a bad taste, or it would get a higher rating if it had a more conclusive ending, a less silly ending. I thought the ending was a little bit silly too.
I think, yeah.
But yeah, I think overall worth seeing, worth thinking about some of the things that they bring up in this movie. So I would say see it, yeah. 3 nighttime swims for me.
Fair. Tim?
I am at a 3.9. A lot of it is Jeffrey Wright, because he's just as phenomenal in this. But yeah, you're right. I do agree that like some of the things left open is why I didn't bump it to 4, but I'm right under 4. Todd?
Yeah, I'm not too far off from Tim. I landed on a 3.7. And honestly, unfortunately, I think that number is going to lower a little bit. Like, the more I think about it, I'm really coming around to this idea of like...
Gut reaction.
Yeah, we're gut reaction. So, I'm at a 3.7. Yeah, since Matt talked about it, my eyes are like super open
Gut reaction.
So, yeah, I still think this is a good movie. I still think it's worth seeing in theaters for sure. I think it's worth the nomination. I don't even know who else is nominated, but I hope Jeffrey Wright wins for this. I can't think of many other people who I would really be 100% behind. But I think he really carried this movie to me, not because everyone else was not good, but it was because I thought he had the hardest job to me of saying a lot without saying a lot. Yes. Like, because he's a quiet character. And, like, so a lot of what he has to say has to be in his facial expressions, have to be in his shoulder shrugging or his posture and stuff like that. And I thought he really started. I thought he really owned that part of the movie.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm at 3.7.
He is up for Best Actor. Sterling Brown is up for Best Supporting Actor.
I don't know if I can support that.
It's also up for Best Screenplay.
That I would support. I don't know about Sterling K. Brown.
Screenplay.
Yeah. Okay. Last thoughts?
One thing I did like about this movie, and it's a pet peeve of mine, because I think we, as a society, let geniuses off the hook for how terrible people they are, because we're like, hey, they're geniuses.
That's a big point in this movie.
They're doing this stuff, but this movie calls out, I think, not in its main point kind of way, but it is in there that geniuses are awful people, and no, you don't need to make excuses for them. Can be awful people. Not every genius is an awful person.
No,
but
I thought they did a good job.
They do. They say like being a genius makes you sad because you can't relate to people or whatever. But also
he's called out on it. Yeah.
He's called out on it. But also the point of him being called out, and maybe it's the point of most to all geniuses, is because they don't allow themselves to be open with people. So
because they're always looking down.
I just think, especially in today's day and age, when you find out stuff about people and this tech genius or this person did this and they did that and stuff like that, and we're all like, well, that's kind of horrible, but they're a genius, so I guess we'll excuse them. I like that this movie does not excuse that. It's not its main message, but it's in there.
It is in there. Great. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we review the movie American Fiction, and we give it an average rating of 3.5 and a third, which is a good rating, and I think all of us would say you should see this movie, so check it out. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and please keep doing that. Subscribe, download, etc., etc. And we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da da.